Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CIO Leadership Forum, Leading Digital Business Acceleration. My name is Vicki Lynn Brunskill with Argyle. It's great to have everyone joining us today. Just a couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during the event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, and those do include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. Also, throughout today's event, you have the opportunity to win one of several prizes, so please do check out the prizes and raffles rules tab of the interface to see how you can earn points. And to ask questions throughout the session, simply type them into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. And now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Pete Gibson, former Chief Information Officer at Johnny Rockets and Friendly's Restaurants. We are so excited to have Pete, GS, and Toll Guy with us for a panel discussion titled The Future of Cloud, Scalable, Resilient, and Agile Cloud Computing. Welcome, Pete, and over to you.
All right. Thanks, Vicki. I appreciate the introduction. I'm Pete Gibson. I just got done turning around Friendly's and Johnny Rockets. I was also a CIO at Wyndham Hotel Group, running 7,000 hotels, a CIO at Alamo National Car Rental. I ran an IT outsourcing company where we built Walmart.com, Red Prairie, Agilysys. And a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I ran the U.S. Navy's Tomahawk cruise missile program. So that's where I got my grounding in how to run technology organizations. I'm pleased to say we got a great panel with us today. And first, I'd like to introduce GS, who has a great record in medical services and medical products. So GS, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Pete, and welcome to this forum team. My name is GS Jha, and I'm a global CIO and a CISO for a billion-dollar medical device company based out of San Francisco, California. And I have been in medical device for last 20 years after I transitioned from software company. I worked for a company like FedEx in the past, developed their first tracking software. Then I worked for Anderson Consulting, Accenture, did a lot of ERP type implementation, and then back to corporate world. So team, I'm looking forward to discussing some of my experience and hear from panelist experience as well as to how cloud is helping shape up the future of current processes, business system, as well as the impact it has on the future of the business. I look at the cloud computing, many ways. Of course, it has flattened the competitive field where IT used to be a competitive edge if you had resources and money. With the invention of cloud, that has been flattened. Like from startup to trillion-dollar company, we all have access to the same cloud as long as we have a funding to pay for it. So I will look at it from that angle, as well as because I have a dual role of CISO, cybersecurity, as you know, that has become a biggest threat to every single business on this planet. So when you think of cloud, please think of cybersecurity as well, because now you cannot do one without other. It's that important. So going back to cloud, cloud comes in many form and shape. Is it cloud, private cloud, public cloud? Is it SaaS? So depending upon your business strategy and what you are trying to achieve, right? You have to have a very well thought out strategy as to what's the purpose. Because if you're using, say, cloud as a private cloud, basically you did nothing but moved your servers from on-premise to cloud, where you are not physically going to the data center, managing, racking computers and all that. Then the second aspect is public cloud, where you don't have a dedicated environment for yourself. You are subscribing with somebody else, right? And third is SaaS, where you basically pay for the services that you subscribe as you go. Salesforce, ADP. There are many enterprise services like that, right? So for this talk, I'm primarily going to focus mostly on private or public cloud, where you are renting uh, the hardware space or the servers, all the resources, and you are managing them yourself, right? So you have to look at your long-term IT strategy. I'm doing this to improve collaboration, and I'm doing this to improve innovation, speed to market. Uh, so if you draw a 2 by 2 matrix using uh, those three criteria: collaboration, innovation, speed to market. I'll tell you, we, in my role currently at this company, we're a global medical device company. We have customers all over the world. We use it for all three. We work with physicians, we work with medical service provider, we have our own field service. So collaboration has been a key, right? With your traditional on-premise solution, getting someone to access your system, whether it is sharing files or sharing some PHI, patient information, it used to take weeks to to get somebody onboarded and be able to do all that. With cloud in the middle now, I can do that in minutes.
Yeah, you
It's
sure
that
can.
simple, right? It's
Yeah,
that simple.
yeah, good. Thanks, GS. Now I'd like to go over to Tolgai, who has a great record in the private sector, but also he has a great record in academia also. Tolgai, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Tolgai Kızılelma. I'm the director of our MS in Cybersecurity program at the Dominican University of California under the Business School. As you mentioned, I did work in the private sector for the first phase of my professional career for 15 plus years, and then later transitioned to cybersecurity, governance, risk, compliance domains, especially in the higher education domain. So my focus really around awareness, education, and community involvement. Those are type of things. I'm also involved at various boards dealing with, these cybersecurity related issues, giving back, and involved with a lot of programs around, youth and students, cybersecurity scholarships, and all such. So I think there's so much we can do collectively using our own networks, our backgrounds, and unique experiences. So I truly believe giving back to the community, especially when there's that workforce shortage, right? Contributing to the professional development of the younger generation, I think is something we all have to do as leaders. So regarding the significant ways in terms of the business performance innovation, as you know, today there's that consumerization of technology, and cloud is no longer that exception. We rely on cloud. Agility and speed is really important. Now we're dealing with Gen AI. It's no longer, it's not a recent information. It's been like 2 years. Use of open source AI or LLMs. The way, back to the point made, cybersecurity is an important one, and open source LLMs being utilized for cyber threat actors, obviously. So we really need to kind of keep an eye on it. I also would like to mention about the close relationship we have to have with the third parties and vendors. There's that commoditization of technology IT, and when we have a lot of services and products basically outsourced and utilizing cloud for that purpose, for all effectiveness and efficiency purposes, we really need to have a good relationship, trust-based relationship with the third parties, with the vendors. Of course, we have to rely on the, do the proper, take the proper measures and do the controls and third-party risk assessments. But I think the way we can create value utilizing cloud, right, from a business performance and innovation perspective, is really focusing on our core competencies. Again, remembering about the commodity aspect. There's no point doing the things where they don't create value, right? The competitive advantage. So whatever the core competency, that's what we should really focus on, and try to utilize cloud for all its benefits, right? For those commodity aspects, so that's how we can create value. Again, I'm not going to even go through the the whole scalability, the cost efficiency, and global access. So there are all those benefits of basically cloud, the way we utilize in our different environments, different industries, different organizations. But I think one thing I would really highlight is really the automation and integration of all those services and delivering, the value proposition for our stakeholders, internal and external. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to start with you, Tolga. And what do you think the top challenges are to creating a resilient cloud operation? And then also at the same time, as you create it in some type of all cloud or a hybrid type solution, how do you keep it secure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, as we've seen with the COVID, right, we've gone through that experience and we're still alive today. I think it's all about, being resilient and recovery, disaster recovery, business continuity plan. So we need to really have that focus. Right? Things will happen, right? There are things out of our control. It's all about, preparation, being proactive. So in this current technology landscape, it's all about data. So I think it all starts about, data protection, making sure whatever your data assets, digital assets, they're protected properly. And of course, there are a lot of things happening. But from a protection risk mitigation perspective, it's really, the encryption that we have to do, for data at rest and in transit, in use. So make sure you have some really, encryption methodologies and strong processes in place to protect your data from an encryption perspective. Of course, I think we'll discuss a bit more maybe in the coming questions. There's this, there are new technologies, happening. Quantum computing is one. From a cybersecurity threat perspective, right? This idea of, third parties or threat actors really harvesting now and then decrypting later. So that's what the potential risk, one of the potential, risks that we have to do, or challenges. So I would strongly recommend, again, doing the right things in the right way so that even your protected data, your encrypted data, is not leaked, right? You're doing the right things and with the right information security risk management programs. You're protecting your data. You're holding your data, and it's not leaving your associates, your organization, even in the encrypted form, because there's the possibility in the next couple of years, 5 years, when quantum computing is here, that it might be decrypted and all the consequences. Another, I think, challenge is, it's really not a challenge, but more so, we've been, dealing with this, working with this, concept of zero trust. It's all about the identity access management, the devices, and all those things. So I think that one of the other challenges is, back to my point about the, automation and integration. We need to have more of these, deployments and implementations, and in a simpler way, in terms of for organizations to be able to use it. Just like that commodity aspect of technology I mentioned, the zero trust, fundamentals around identity, around data, around device, user behavior analytics. So those all need to be, I think, made simpler with the third parties, with the vendors, so that we can really use it as a commodity tool item, which is another benefit of the cloud operations. I think the last item I like to mention in terms of the challenge in creating resilient cloud operations is resource misconfigurations and maybe incident response too. So due to the nature of cloud, right? It's not on-prem. It's not things we can kind of visually see in servers. It's out there. It's on the cloud. It's really how we can grasp that reality in terms of when something happens, right? How we respond. So you want to make sure you have automated, tools and processes in place with the right skill set, so that when things happen, and they will happen, it's not a matter of if, but when. So you are ready to be able to, deal with those incidents. And of course, this also comes back to that shared model, right? So you have responsibility. The cloud provider, they have responsibility, understanding what tools available to you, so that, when something happens, which will happen, how quickly can you respond and can you recover from that incident, utilizing the available tools, and then make sure all the data which are encrypted, right, that you can back up, recover, and make sure you're up and running. So that's the other, I think, item. So resource misconfiguration related stuff, obviously, is a skill set. Again, knowing the tools, knowing the different types of assessments that you have available. So it's all about preparation. It's all about being proactive, It's all about having the right people in your team as much as possible, and having those trust-based relationship with your third parties and vendors.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Pete, if I can add a few things to what
Sure.
Holger said. So, team, I think cybersecurity is so pervasive. It's 24 by 7 by 365 days around the world, and it fits right in the bucket of enterprise risk management. So it's a bigger than IT department. It's a bigger than cybersecurity department. It needs to go at the governance, the board level from the risk management perspective. And the cultural shift that company has to make, which is the biggest barrier, is shifting from cost of doing business to cost of staying in business, right? Because look, cybersecurity doesn't bring a penny to the table. In fact, it doesn't even save any penny from COGS. It's basically overhead, if you look at. That's why I call it cost of staying in business, and you have to just do it. So, starting with management, uh, education to and basically top down to make sure people understand, because I talk to a lot of CISO. I have been here now 6 months. People still think this like a cancer disease where it happens to somebody else, not me, right? So even though people hear this every day, AT&T got hacked 2 weeks ago, Change Health got hacked, but there's still a lot of companies still have a lack of privilege management. I find CIOs, CISOs where they haven't locked down their workstations. People have admin privilege on workstations, right? Low hanging fruit for the hackers. So, in closing, what I want to say, there's so many things you can do, and you can get stretched too thin very quickly. Pick a framework, whether it is a NIST or ISO 27000. Use that to drive your phased approach to get to from point A to point B.
Yes, actually, that's a very good point, which I forgot to mention. You're right on top of it, right? So it's, again, we create this value, whether through IT modernization, digital transformation, innovation. From a cybersecurity, information security perspective, privacy compliance, that perception of the no department or the barrier, right? That's no longer the case. That should not be the case.
Yeah.
So companies moving forward, they need to see the cybersecurity, information security as a business enabler.
Yeah.
All that value we create, right, is here. And with all these third-party incidents breaches, take that value created for the organization, for the stakeholders, take it down.
Yeah.
Our role for our cybersecurity, information security, is to preserve that value where it is and minimize, right, the losses. So that's, I think, once we put that perspective into the big picture, and it's all about the awareness and education, then you can get the proper investments, and the cybersecurity is no longer seen as a cost department. It's part of doing business, obviously, but more so it's a business enabler, allowing us to preserve that value created by technology.
Okay. So great input. So based on the recent strategy and technology gaps, what are some of the things that the leaders need to be aware of? We're focusing heavy on cybersecurity, but in the cloud environment where cybersecurity applies, there are a lot of gaps and pitfalls. So what are you seeing? And GS, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask that we keep this moving along a little bit here.
Yeah. No, thank you, Pete. I think that's a very good question. Team, look, every company is dealing with competitive pressure in marketplace. There's a lot of pressure to increase revenue, sales, new products to the market, decreasing cost of goods sold, increase profitability, right? That has been there. So what has happened as a result? Uh, People are looking for, how do I get my market product to the market fastest? That requires IT innovation, product, and cloud has really enabled that very well. That you can bring on infrastructure as you need, and you can bring down as you need. So it gives you a lot of agility. But what hasn't happened with that is cybersecurity really hasn't kept up with that, right? It's still lagging. Cyber attackers are working 24 by 7 by 365 degree. and they're constantly looking for the loopholes, right? Areas where they can easily get in and do ransomware or whatever to get your data and hold your, a ransom. Um, the challenge there is hackers don't have to get anybody's approval. They can go make any code changes. They can spin up a lot of robots to create a lot of uh, attacks. Whereas you and I, in our role, we have SOPs to follow. We have a funding issues. We have resource issues. So things that the hackers are a lot more, agile than we are in terms of the progress and what we need to do. So keeping in that mind, what I suggest is, or what I do here in my role is, we are almost, I would say, 95% reliance on third party, whether it is AWS, Azure, whether it is SIM or SOC. Make sure you do a very strong vendor management upfront. Until I came to this company, IT was ad hocly involved in doing vendor agreement review. That's not acceptable. Not only you need to do vendor agreement review, you need to do vendor cybersecurity assessment. Make sure they have SOC reports. Make sure they have done penetration testing in their environment. I think if you don't do all this, business, as I said, commercial team or the manufacturing team, under the pressure to do things sooner, they will just go to the first things that they find in the marketplace, and they won't think cybersecurity and other things. And this is where IT team and cybersecurity team, in a good way, they have to insert themselves without being as a barrier to their progression, right? So those are the things, team, I would suggest to do. It's easier said than done. This is where leaders such as on this panel and you attendees, we have to be decisive, we have to be united, and we have to educate our stakeholders from top to bottom. Otherwise, you will keep getting roadblocks if we didn't take the collaborative approach.
And I'm going to chime in a little bit here. And I just want to make this point really clear that the CISO and the CIO are not technology leaders. And yeah, they are. But they are organization leadership positions. And you have got to be in front of the organization evangelizing the issues associated with it. Because gone are the day that it's a virus or the ransomware. Keep in mind now, this day and age, due to cybersecurity, companies are going out of business. In the healthcare area, I know of hospitals getting hacked. What are they going for? Yep, they're going for the information. They're not only tying up the servers, they are tying up the information, and they will ransom the information. But now they are also going for your patient's information, mammogram information, and things like that, and they are ransoming the patients also. So this is a really tough world. So, and I appreciate your all's perspective on it. So, Tall Guy, I'm going to move on a little bit more. How is AI impacted in the cloud landscape?
Well, a lot of things are happening, right? I think the recent change about the AI, it's all about the data, as I mentioned, and of course, there are privacy implications, and I'm sure you all heard about the APRA that came out, I think, last week, the American Privacy Rights Act they're working on. So laws, regulations, the compliance aspect, I think, is one area which is important that we need to kind of keeping an eye on the privacy related outcomes. But thinking about the benefits, right? It's all about the value delivery, how we optimize the associated risk and how we optimize the use of resources, limited resources. I think one area is really about, to the point I made about, automation. So there's this enhanced automation efficiency, right? AI enables intelligent automation of various cloud management tasks, including provisioning, monitoring, scaling, optimization. So there's that efficiency aspect, obviously, which is great. There's, the data around the insights and analytics. So the outcome of that is really AI-powered analytics, because we're trying to really get the most out of the data that we have. We have lots of data, big data, everything. But how we get that data put into good use, right, for better risk-informed decision-making, right? That's important. So leveraging those massive data sets in the cloud, where that's the advantage, is the cloud native, and that's how we want to utilize it, utilize that data available to us, driving actionable insights for those data-driven decisions to enable the business outcomes. I think is very important going forward. Of course, there's that customer, experience. That's really important. Customized, tailored according to everybody's individual preferences. So that AI plays a very important role in that. So it drives the customer satisfaction, which we all want, obviously part of the business value proposition. But it also, helps us, assists us with the innovation process or experimentation. The things that were not possible before. Now with AI, in different industries. I mean, even if you're out there on LinkedIn, you can see kind of, different use cases, like hundreds of use cases of AI in different industries, different organizations, different places, different areas. So I think that the AI allowed everybody, especially what I mentioned about the consumerization, right? It democratized the access to the advanced services, advanced technologies, right? Machine learning, natural language processing. So from that perspective, I think it's really important that consumers, public, can utilize AI, Gen AI, and that also drives the accelerate the innovation process, experimentation process, and allows us to deliver services and products quickly to the our customers, to our stakeholders. Of course, there are threats out there from a security perspective, from a privacy perspective, and those are things we have to really be cautious. The governance, I think, is really important. So we want to make sure we address those consequences through governance, proper governance structure, making sure we have the right policies and procedures in place. Use of standards and frameworks, always a good idea, right? We don't really need to reinvent the wheel. I would strongly recommend utilizing existing standards, frameworks. There are a lot of out there, ISO or NIST. So yeah, I think that's kind of the big picture I have. But overall, benefits and the consequences, negative. We just need to find the right balance for your specific organization, for your specific industry, and make sure you look at the picture from that context. Everybody's context is different.
All right, good, thanks. Now let me make a plug here. Now in about 8 minutes, we're going to have our question and answer period. So if the audience has any questions, if they would submit those, so we can try to field as many as possible. GS, what are some examples of cloud innovation for improved adaptability, resilience, and scalability?
Yeah, I think the clouds gives you all of those, right? But before you can harness what cloud comes, you got to have a good business strategy and IT strategy that is totally aligned with that business strategy, right? You got to have your KPIs, you got to have your entire value proposition as to on January 1st, this is my state. On December 31st, by end of the year, this is where I want to go from point A to point B. Once you have that roadmap, then I think you can develop your IT digital strategy to take the most advantage of cloud strategy. As I said, cloud comes in many forms and flavor: private, public, SaaS. I think everything, most of the services that we consume now, whether we know it or not, it's somewhere in the cloud, multi-layer cloud, and so on. So have a clarity around that. I'll give you a recent example at my company. As I said, I have been here 6 months, and I have been making a lot of transformational change in the company. We're changing the culture of this company just by taking IT and CISO leadership approach. We do a lot of custom software development for hospitals and medical centers. We have a big development team. And there is a lack of awareness that cloud is not free, right? People have been just spinning servers and database, all kinds, because we don't have a good control and governance in place. As a result, the cost has gone from, it used to be 3 million to 9 million just in 1 year.
Yeah.
So now suddenly the CEO is upset, or CFO, guys, what happened? We didn't budget for this, we didn't plan for this. So you have to watch for all that, right? So it's not only the cost consideration. I'll keep going back to cybersecurity because most of the developers is still catching on to cybersecurity. How to, when you develop the code, how do you design for cybersecurity? If you did a Google search, how do I parse a JSON file? You will get so many third-party open source software that you can download that you don't even have to write a line of code. But have you ever looked at, when you download that package, what cybersecurity gaps does it have? So if I took some third-party, not a vetted object and put it in my production system, right? The person who wrote that code, now that person knows that you're using their object code in your production system. And maybe that person has a daemon process that's listening for some traffic to feed to that guy. So be extremely careful. Though the world has been flattened because of advancement in internet and the cloud, but boy, it has opened up a door for bad actors wide open. So those are the caution I'll bring to the table, because I'm dealing with that firsthand myself. To and use some of the techniques we talked about, Tolgate talked about, Pete talked about, to be resilience. That's the thing that you'll keep hearing more and more.
Okay. Good. All right, I got about 3 minutes before we got to get to Q&A, and our last question is, what's next in cloud? And so, if you would just give me a couple of your thoughts on that. Tolgay, what do you think?
Well, I think it's all about the technology at this point. It's moving rapidly, advancing. As I mentioned about the quantum computing, but coming back to the cybersecurity, a topic, at the national level, there are all these threats from China, and they're making big, investments, working with partnering with the research institutions, higher universities. So quantum computing, I think, is going to be one of the deciding elements, along with the other latest technologies like blockchain and their serverless evolution of how we utilize on the cloud. AI obviously is there, machine learning, and there are other technologies that are becoming widely available, part of our day-to-day use, like augmented reality, virtual reality, those type of things. So the implications of all those things, they will make our lives easier, create value, but at the same time they will bring the associated risk with them. So it's all about understanding the balance, right? The value proposition and the associated risk, and based on our risk tolerance, risk appetite, how we really optimize the use of our resources to still create that value proposition for our stakeholders with these latest technologies moving forward. Thank you.
Yes.
So Pete, Pete, if I can add just one point, Paul gave a very good insight you provided. What I would add is, look, team, cloud plus artificial intelligence. The innovators' dreams are coming true. With these two, the speed of innovation is going to be skyrocketing. So there's just so much we can do with the tools and technology that we have now that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it seemed impossible. So that's the power it brings to us.
And you're spot on. If you look at the cloud roadmaps, so Azure is hopping all over AI. And so they are creating platforms for you to work AI. But the other thing that is really interesting is that AI is an amoebic term that doesn't mean a whole lot, but the statistical side of it is computational intensive. So you're seeing the cloud providers rework all their clouds or newer product sets to go after the NVIDIA chipset so that they can move real quickly. They are also creating services for the 5G world. And it's interesting that Azure is going after that, and same thing with Amazon Web Services, which means the other products are going into their evolutionary thing. So don't look for a lot of security products to solve your illities in security. They're going to be where they're at. The other player is Google, and Google is still going after associate productivity type items right now in their roadmap. So with that, I'm going to go into Q&A, and I get asked these questions all the time, but one of the common ones is, how do you know if you're maximizing your investment in cloud? And I'll tell you, because I work with a lot of different companies now. It used to be 3 years ago, the push was move in the cloud, which was a commodity move. Now I'm starting to see people say, and GS said it really well, oh my God, I'm spending $9 million on this thing. And I'm seeing people come out of the cloud, and you just kind of want to talk to the execs and say, smack, 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 no change management, no control, no ROIs, kind of politely saying, what the heck are you thinking? So how does an organization maximize value in the cloud?
So I'll take it. I mean, it's really about.
It's a tough question. It really is, because it's a commodity play. So how do you maximize the value?
So I'll start. It's the governance. I think that's where we all have to start, right? It all starts at the top. Obviously, you have to know why you're in the business. What is the reason, right? All those strategic objectives for your stakeholders, internal, external. What drives them? What are the drivers? So once you understand the stakeholder value proposition, whether it's economic or service mindset, whatever, depending on the industry, you have your strategies set, right? The objectives that should drive everything else in a governance structure. And of course, for every value function you create, there's the associated risk. So you have to find that balance. But every industry, every organization is different from that perspective. Their risk tolerance, their risk appetite, the cultural elements, they're different. So knowing your, risk culture, risk related elements definitely, impacts how you create value, right? Are you more risk averse, risk, tolerant, those type of things. So once you have those top elements addressed, through a governance structure, through committees, through the proper policies and procedures, utilizing existing standards and frameworks, right? There's no point reinventing the wheel. Then everything else in a pyramid kind of should align. They should cascade. So all the IT efforts, all the cybersecurity efforts, information security efforts, which are the business enablers, right? Preserving the value, they need to align to the next level, right? So anything you do in one form or another has to support those top strategic goals. If they don't, then it's just a waste. And that's one way to do that. To the point mentioned about the cost optimization, that's the other thing. You really need to kind of look on how you control your cost, right? That's one of the optimizing resources along with risk. Addressing risk, you have to do risk management, risk assessments, third party. Our reliance on third party, right, is important nowadays because of the commodity aspect of service products. So have to have a good relationship with the vendors, do the third party risk assessments properly, right? And overall, it's all about awareness and training and education for your internal stakeholders, especially key decision makers, so that they understand, when they make a decision, they understand the implications. But you also have to have the right things in the right way, do them in the right way, and deliver the value proposition for your stakeholders.
Thank you. So, GS, Togai talked a lot about alignment. In your position of having to support an organization that puts products and services around, how do you make sure you're aligned?
Yeah, so, alignment, I believe, is the fundamental bedrock for success, right? And this is where you need the good old leadership. Look, there's a lot of advancement in technology, cloud, AI, and other things, but the leadership is a common fabric across all that. So what I mean by that the CISO and the CIO and all the IT leaders have to be credible, have to be respectful. You have to know the business. Never walk around in a boardroom or with your executive leadership team as a technologist, use buzzwords and all that. Talk their language. If you're in manufacturing business, know that domain. Invest in yourself. Don't ask them to teach you or tell you what their problems are. They'll get frustrated. know their problems, learn to put in their shoes, so that when you are discussing a strategy, you are not the backbencher. You want to be the front bencher. And how you do that? Learn their domain, learn their issues and challenges, so that you are walking with them toe to toe. That's if we did that, we will be recognized as a leader, as a strategic uh, leader rather than technology leader. We don't want to be known for technology, our tricks and all that in our bag. That's our tools. But in the boardroom, in the leadership table, we want to be known as a business driver enabler, not a technology guy.
Okay, good.
I think if we achieve that, that removes the barrier, that creates a seamless collaboration and alignment.
All right. Tolga, you've walked into a lot of different organizations, and there is an IT strategy, whatever. There is a business strategy, and you don't know how many times I've heard that, and they can't produce a business strategy. But how do you know there's a gap between what your IT team is doing, what the CEO wants, or quote, the business strategy? How do you identify these gaps so that you don't fall into a pitfall and saying, why aren't you doing anything about this and helping us make money?
Yeah, I think what you just mentioned in terms of talking with in the boardroom, it's really about building relationships, trust-based relationships, and for any leader who understands the business, they need to understand the business, but that should start with listening, right? Active listening. That's really important. So once you kind of start, hearing about people's pain points, problems, their needs, you would kind of get a quick idea. We always, are asked about what are you going to do in the first 90 days, first 30 days. I think that's the one thing that you want to do is start hearing about these pain points with active listening. But obviously there's, of course, you can also go through the formal route of, doing the gap assessments, right? Where we are, what the pain points, because there's a formal process to do that too. But essentially it's all about communication. It's all about, finding out what's working currently and what's not working, what the strengths are, what the opportunities, all those things. And of course, having a good understanding of the technology and environment, the business landscape, and where you are with the business, having a good understanding of what the business is all about and what their strategic priorities. So if you don't know what those strategic priorities, right, it doesn't matter at the bottom level. So then that should be your North Star. Once you know them, then with your background, with your active listening, with your credibility as a business leader, IT leader, and then understanding the issues, listening with talking with people, relationship building, you try to formulate this, okay, get that big picture. And of course, you have to do proper assessments, gap analysis, skill set, one of the big things, right? Cost, really, other thing. So try to find out what the constraints are, what you're trying to optimize, right? And bring all these together with an open environment, transparent communication, and make sure you're moving in the right direction through that alignment I mentioned.
Very good. Very good. All right, GS, last one for you. You talked a lot about money, right? You never have enough, but you got to get it done. So how do you balance scalability and cost effectiveness, especially in the cloud environment?
Yeah, the word is priority, right? You will agree that none of us have been to a company where we had enough resources, enough money, enough headcount. We all are challenged on those fronts. And I think priority and strategy go hand in hand. Know your priorities, what CEOs and board cares most about, then you prioritize, develop your goals accordingly, then you will be in locksteps. So basically, if you look at all these things come together, they aren't one off. It's a cog of the same wheel, right? So that's how I do it. I always ask in our bi-weekly ELT meeting, so guys, how are we doing on these fronts? We use the traffic light, red, yellow, green, and that gives us the indicator where we need to, fine tune areas, whether it is cost saving, whether it is moving faster, and so on. Those are the few tactics I use to manage cost. And always ask why. What if we did not do it? What are we going to not, lose or not lose? Because people at engineering level or the administrator level, they don't have the big picture. They basically hear the request and they want to go, and do their best to serve. And as a CIO, CISO, now we have to approve that. This is where educating them. Tell me more. Tell me more. And why do we need this? Is there something else? What are the other options we have? So
Good.
those are the things.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Pete, one thing I'm
Well,
going to add to that quickly.
real quick.
How we use
Yep.
data, right? The metrics, that's a big important part of it. When we present to the data metrics progress measurement to the leadership at the right level. Everybody's at different levels. So we really need to make sure, whether it's the dashboards or reports, we want to present it at their level, at their background, but based on their skill set, expertise. So that's how we can really optimize. So data is really important, KPIs, KRIs, all those metrics, but you want to make sure you present it, adjust it, and tailor it based on the right level for the right audience.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, I got to wrap it up, guys. Tolgai, GS, thank you very much. Very insightful, very good. And to our audience, hopefully the time spent, you were able to get something of value out of it, what I affectionately call nuggets of gold. And I encourage you that you continue to learn through your career, because it's always changing and you've got to learn. And I also reiterate that you're learning. You are the future of our industry and your business. So with that, I'm going to toss it back over to Vicki and get her, I guess we'll wrap this session up. Vicki?
Thank you so much, GS, Tolgai, and Pete, for that insightful, practical, and timely panel discussion. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today for this session. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. And as a reminder, please do check out the prizes and raffle rules section to see how you can earn points for the chance to win one of several prizes. Our next session will begin at 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be a fireside chat titled Level Up Workplace Productivity in the Age of Information Overload. Please click the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to that session, and we look forward to seeing you again there, and thank you again.